The president may have another problem on his hands. Republican Senator Rob Portman out of Ohio saying that the president needs to work with Democrats in order to get reform passed. Listen.
Used to do is reach out not just to Republicans but to Democrats and to ensure that he gives them the political cover to do, frankly, what most of them know needs to be done. In order to do what we have to do in a relatively short period of time, because I think the window's pretty short here. I think it's by the end of this year. The president's got a big role to play. Meeting with Republicans is fine, but frankly, I think it's more important to reach out to Democrats, ensure that they know he's going to have their back, and to reach out to the American people.
Well, he said a lot in that comment. Kirsten Powers, columnist, Daily Beast, Tony Sayegh, president of Talk Radio News Service. Both are Fox News contributors. Good morning to both of you.
Good
Spring
morning.
forward
Good
we
morning,
go. Tony, what is Senator Portman trying to communicate there?
Well, he's pointing out the obvious, which was also corroborated by a political story today, which is that if the president wants a grand bargain, and all indications of late are that he really is eager to achieve one by working with Republicans, he's going to have to put in a meaningful way more entitlement reform on the table. In order to accomplish that, he has to get Democrats with him and take them along that path.
Suggesting that Democrats aren't necessarily on board?
Well, 107 of 200 Democratic congressmen, Bill, wrote a letter to the president and said, we will reject any and every cut to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So this is their kind of intransigent moment. Remember during the whole tax hike fiscal cliff conversation, Republicans were accused of being kind of slaves to Grover Norquist and the anti-tax pledge. This is that equivalent moment for Democrats who are really not connected with reality when it comes to the debt and deficit generated by entitlements.
Let me get Kirsten on. Is he right about the intransigent? Is this really pushing that boulder up the hill?
Yeah, I mean, that was the exact analogy I was going to use. The sort of, tax purity test of Republicans. It's the same on the left. They've just staked out this very unreasonable position on entitlements. The base of the party is sort of following the Paul Krugman line, which is we don't have a problem, or if we have a problem, it's 10 years out. But even if you bought into that idea, it doesn't mean they shouldn't be doing something about it now. The idea that somehow in 10 years they're going to snap their fingers and get everything done is ridiculous.
Well, have Democrats, have they opened the door to the possibility of negotiating entitlements or not?
The president said in one of, I think in his press conference during this sequester negotiations, that he knew he needed to start talking to Democrats about this. Debbie Wasserman Schultz said yesterday on one of the Sunday shows that she was open to it. You are hearing these kind of statements, but they haven't suffered the backlash yet that they're going to get if they go down this road. And I think that it's going to be very hard to bring Democrats around on this issue.
What Portman said is that the president needs to give them political cover to do this. What kind of cover could he offer?
Well, showing the leadership that he's willing to make those bold choices ahead of them so they don't suffer any electoral consequences from the Democratic, more progressive base. Look, the president has gone on the record and said he'd consider, or at least be open-minded to, means testing entitlements, which basically means the wealthier you are, the less benefit you get from them. He's also gone on the record and said he'd consider this whole readjustment of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which the Bowles-Simpson Commission says could save up to $300 billion over 10 years from an entitlement savings. So he's already gone on the record and said, I'll consider them. What we haven't seen, though, is him endorsing an actual plan, like a potentially Bowles-Simpson, which goes toward a meaningful road to specifically outline cuts in entitlements.
Has he, Kirsten?
Well, I mean, his fiscal cliff deal had chain CPI in it, and it had a lot of health savings reforms, including means testing. So I don't think it's true. I think he has put stuff on the table. And you just said that he hasn't put anything out. He has, and he has also done it in his fiscal year 13 budget. So I think the fact that he has done that is noteworthy, and we shouldn't pretend that he hasn't. The question is whether he can bring Democrats along and get them to vote for it is, I think, going to be the problem.
One more point on this, and we saw the outreach last week with Republicans, and you wonder if the same is going to happen now with Democrats. Tony, should Republicans trust the outreach, or should they be wary, as Peggy Noonan wrote over the weekend, about it's the follow-up and the follow-through that truly counts?
Well, it's what Reagan used to say about the Soviets, trust but verify. The president seems to have had an interest working with Republicans much more these past 2 weeks since his whole sequestration debacle did not work in his favor. I sincerely actually think, and I did allow the president, back to the point, for putting these ideas on the table. What he has to do now, though, is endorse a plan and bring Democrats with him. He only has a narrow period of time, by the way, Bill, though, where he has the capital, the political capital, to do so. And the reason Rob Portman said the August 14th, rather this year, is because the August 2013 is when we're going to be revisiting the whole renewal of the debt ceiling.
That's at the end of summer, but in the meantime, Kirsten, she's got steam coming out of her ears already.
How much more of an endorsement of a plan can you make than putting out a budget or putting out a fiscal cliff? Go to WhiteHouse.gov and find his fiscal cliff offer.
Go to a Washington Post editorial that says he's not been detailed enough.
I don't care what the Washington Post editorial says. They need to go to WhiteHouse.gov.
They're pretty left of center, Kirsten.
Does he or does he not, on his website, have a proposal for his fiscal cliff deal that states these things? That's endorsing a plan. Stop saying he hasn't endorsed it. It's in his budget.
The Washington Post said he hasn't been specific enough. That's of yesterday's editorial. The Washington Post itself has pointed that out.
You keep saying that he has not endorsed a plan. That is false. Completely false.
Well, let's get the Democrats on board then.
We'll both check it out and we'll make up our own minds, right? I mean, how specific? You don't want me to go all on Combs on you, do you, Kirsten?
I was waiting for that from Kirsten.
Hey, now. See you, Tony.